Welcome into the Ultimate Cavaliers Show. Mikey McNuggets, Jason Lloyd coming at you as the Cavs sit with the best record in basketball, 27 games in. And Jason, it feels weird. It feels like the Cavs have barely played basketball in the last 3 weeks. It's part of the NBA Cup. They had some extra time off, some much needed time off, but they have 3 games in the coming days, all at home against Milwaukee, Philly, and then I keep forgetting who they play on Monday, but that's 3 games away, so we can deal with it then. But real quick before we dive into today's topics, does it not feel weird that they're having like a summer vacation mid-season? They've played 3 games in almost 3 weeks now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, I wanted to do a quick hijack. I don't like the NBA Cup. I think it's silly. And this is part of the reason why. Like, these teams are creatures of habit. These players are creatures of habit. And this throws everything off. And I'm not a fan. I did think that, like, they should go for it because I was talking to Tristan about this. You might as well get experience in hoisting a trophy, even if it's a gumball trophy. At least it's competition at a higher level and winning a trophy. But overall, I am not a fan of this. What do you think?
I think the games have been good. I think it's impossible for the NBA to get people to care about it. And if people don't care about it at the end of the day, then it's meaningless. And It's funny, we had the topic on Monday's show. We didn't get to it. But if we had time for a Cavs topic, it was going to be, is the rest more beneficial to the Cavs than the potential do-or-die game experience they could get from playing in these Cup games? And when I told Bull we were going to do that topic on Sunday night, he's like, are you serious? Like, you think this matters? The answer is, to these teams, yeah, it does matter. And you can gain some valuable experience playing in these games. I go back to Indiana last year, Jason. They made the NBA Cup championship. They lost to the Lakers and ended up beating the Knicks in the playoffs, making the Eastern Conference Finals. Is it exactly because they won because they made the NBA Cup Finals that translated? Who knows? But you can't replicate situations that have real stakes. You can't replicate stakes unless you're actually in a game that has a legitimate winning and losing scenario. And I think the Cavs could have benefited, but I think in the long run, having this extra time off certainly will just help keep their legs fresh down the stretch.
The Pacers thing is interesting. I didn't think of this until you just said that. It's sort of like chicken and the egg. Was the Pacers going to the Cup a precursor to them making the finals and they were a team to watch and they're not that bad? Or was getting to the Cup the experience that they needed in the you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Me either. It goes, but it's one of those things that, just like the Stefanski discussion, where I don't feel strongly either way, and it could certainly be swayed in either direction with a great argument. I feel like the Cup has its validity. I can tell you from talking to a Western Conference coach the other day, they were dying or would have killed to have a situation where they were playing in a meaningful game. Yeah. Like to have a game that you have to get up for. If not, you're out of this make-believe tournament, but it still has some reason to be excited. They said they would have killed for that experience. Yeah. So there is some validity to it.
Agreed.
The games have been fun. I don't know how much have you watched or you plan on watching tonight, but the Rockets-Thunder game in the semifinals in the Western side was incredible basketball, Jason. Like high level, high intensity. It did not seem like a normal December game at all.
And that's what the league was going for, to try and add some spice to the season. But you're right. If the fans don't care about it and they don't buy in, then does it really matter? And I mean, it's only year 2. It's going to take time to build this out and to build this up and to make it a thing. I think to where people care about it or not. I'm not there yet. I don't. I know we'll get to I think we're going to do ratings later, right? Yeah. It's all sort of is weaved together and all tied together. So we'll talk about it later.
We'll see. Let's dive into our first topic of the day, Jason. In yesterday's blowout win over the Brooklyn Nets, Caris Levert hit 6 3-pointers. All 6 came in the first half. He was dominant. It was the pinnacle of what you hope you get for in terms of Caris Levert. There is a Twitter account, and I'm drawing a blank on the handle, but it's a spinning wheel with Caris Levert's face on it. And it just goes, what Caris are we getting tonight? And it ranges from Steph Curry to Gary Payton to the worst players in the world. And last night, after the game, they had it land on Steph Curry. And it's just funny because sometimes you don't know what you're getting from Caris Levert. On the season, he's having arguably his best season to date, 12.3 points per game, almost 3 rebounds, 4.2 assists. He's shooting 53% from the floor, 49% from 3. And Jason, I'm going to make a statement that I cannot believe I am going to make. If you had told me before the season I was going to say this and mean this with 100% seriousness and no facetiousness, I would have slapped myself in the face. But I genuinely believe that Caris Levert is an untradeable part of this Cleveland Cavaliers rotation right now. And I'll give you a chance to respond to that claim before I give you the reasons as to why I think the Cavs cannot, under any circumstance, unless it's for a legitimate star player, trade Caris Levert.
Well, I wouldn't be in a rush to do it. Certainly with the way that he's playing and the way that he's fit in, I wouldn't say he's untradeable. I'm curious to hear your argument as to why he's sort of untouchable. I wouldn't go that far, but I've never really been in a rush to trade him because I think he's a good fit off the bench.
Not only is he a great fit off the bench, Jason, but he brings an element to this Cavs team that they cannot replicate with any of the other guys that is not part of the core four. And that is the ability to score and get a bucket against tight one-on-one defense. And when you look at the Cavs, Darius can do that. Donovan can do that. There's no questions about that. Everyone else on the team doesn't have that go-to one-on-one isolation scorer mentality that come playoff time when defenses tighten up, they take away what you're best at. Those are the kind of players that you need that can elevate you from competing in a series and winning a series. And winning a series, Jason, and losing a series. And when Ty Jerome was playing at the level he was earlier this season, we'll touch on his slump in a little bit. It's like, okay, well, they have two guys off the bench that I feel decent, can get a bucket in a crucial situation if the Cavs have to rely on someone on the second unit to do it. The way he's playing now, Ty Jerome, the slump, I'm concerned by the slump. Let's just put it that way, and we'll dive into it more.
Is there a slump? Oh, wait. Go ahead.
Well, these will tie into each other, but let me just finish the Caris point, then we can talk about why Jerome plays a big factor in this. But Levert, on any given night, can give you 25 points, Jason. And in the past, we could say that about Caris, but the downside is 25 or 2. There's no in between.
Right.
Kenny Atkinson is getting the best out of Caris Levert. I have his shot chart this season, Jason. It's not full screen, so I apologize. He's only taken 6 mid-range jumpers all season. Kenny Atkinson has completely gotten Caris Levert away from mid-range jumpers. He says, Caris, if you're going to attack, get your ass to the rim and either shoot or kick it out. And if not, you're shooting threes. And that has eliminated Caris's highest volume and lowest efficiency shots. He is now taking the 2 looks that he's better at than he is in the mid-range. And it's the entire attacking mindset, Jason, that outside of the 2 starting guards, I'm not sure anyone else on this Cavs team can bring. If the defense, with the shot clock running down, is focused and it's one-on-one in a playoff situation against a bigger, smaller, quicker, faster, stronger, I don't care what kind of defender, Caris is going to get a shot off. And I don't feel confident saying Max, Isaac, Sam, Ty, Dean, any of those guys can. So with the way he's playing, I know he's on the last year of his deal. I know he's the most easily matchable salary if you're going to try and get somebody. I'm not willing to give up that asset off my bench because there's going to be a time in the postseason where you need your second unit to be able to carry or contain a lead or cut into a lead. Caris is the guy to do it. I don't think you can get rid of him.
I'm not going to argue that. I didn't see that shot chart previously. That's pretty incredible.
I'll pull it back up.
And I think that's amazing. And that is a vintage 2024 NBA player.
Yes.
Like that is what analytics were. That's I mean, you could put that in James Harden's shot charts next to each other and they would be identical. Except Harden would be of more volume. There'd be more dots on there. But that's exactly how Harden plays. And the playmaking is underrated. And when I saw the 4.2 assists, I thought that's pretty good. I realized last year he was over 5. So I wouldn't have guessed that. And, when you think of Caris, you think of shooting, you think of scoring. You don't think necessarily of playmaking and creating for others, but it's a weapon, man. And I wouldn't be scared off by the expiring contract because they could easily re-sign him. They
have his full bird rights, which is worth noting.
Yeah. And I think that he likes it. I think he's comfortable here.
100%.
He's obviously thriving in the system. The team's winning. Why wouldn't you want to stay if you're him? What better opportunity? So I think that's a conversation for the summer, but I wouldn't necessarily run to trade him just because he's an expiring. We've talked at length about where they're at and their cap situation and everything else. They know they're going to be a tax-paying team next year. He's going to get a raise the way that he's playing. They can do all that. So as we get close to the trade deadline, it's going to be interesting to do a whole show on like what they should do and who they should move. But I have no issue with not moving Caris Levert, especially I think the fact that Kenny had him early in his career, and Kenny said a few weeks ago one of his regrets was not being able to maximize what he felt like Caris's value was and what his talent was. Clearly, I think one of the marching orders Kenny gave Caris upon reuniting with him this year is exactly what you said. Threes and layups, threes and at the rim, and nothing in between. And my God, if you can transform somebody's career at this stage, that might be however they got through to Caris might be the key to sort of transforming him, because he's always been that erratic and consistent player. It could be Steph Curry, it could be Luke Herringody, and you just don't know night to night which one it's going to be. But this year, a lot of that's gone away, man. A lot of that's gone away.
I'm going to send you the Twitter account that does it every game, because it's worth a follow or just a bookmark, because it is entertaining. Caris is playing the best basketball of his career. It's hard to argue against it. He's scored more points. He's had higher assist totals, but in terms of the efficiency and in the per 36 numbers, it's right along with the best he's ever done. And I just think it's such a valuable commodity to have, a third option in the backcourt that at any given point can score, can create chaos for the defense, put the defense in rotations. In the regular season, Jason, you and I have said it, the regular season and the postseason cannot be more different.
Right.
Ty Jerome is doing great things, and we're going to go Ty Jerome next, so I'm going to bleed these into each other. But Ty Jerome has done some really cool things in the regular season. I'm not sure he's scaring teams in the postseason, and I think other teams are going to say, Ty, if you want to go one-on-one, we're going to live with that all day. I think if you let Caris do that, Caris can legitimately beat a team on any given night if they give him that opportunity. And that's why I just think right now, because what he does is so unique compared to the rest of their bench's skill set, we talk about the overlapping guys who shoot, stand in the corner, aren't creators, but are those, in theory, spacing 3-and-D wings. Like, Levert's a creator. He doesn't have to be creative for. I can't believe I'm saying this, because he was the one guy you put in every trade rumor just because his contract, Jason. Yeah. I do not think you can put Caris Levert in any trade discussions right now. I'm out.
Well, what you just said about Ty is, I guess, the last point I'll make on Caris, then we can move into Jerome. If you have a closing lineup in a postseason game, for as great as Ty Jerome has been, even when he was hot, I don't know that I would say that I would feel comfortable with Ty Jerome in a closing lineup in a postseason game. I would feel comfortable with Caris Levert. He's been in that spot before. He has that experience. And if he's one of your five on the floor in the last minute of a one-possession game, I don't think that's outrageous at all.
Not at all. All right, let's talk about Ty Jerome. We'll do that after a quick word from FanDuel. Guys, FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and an official sportsbook partner of not just the NFL, but the NBA as well. If you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out all the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and place bets all on the same page, and that is with FanDuel. New customers right now can bet $5 and win $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. So make sure you head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and the NBA. All right, Jason, let's talk Ty Jerome. He was the first player in league history to shoot 60, 50, 90 for part of the season. And now he's down to still respectable numbers, but nowhere near where he was for the year now after his recent slump. He's shooting 44% from three, 44.7 to be exact, 53.7% from the floor, 10.7 points per game. Those numbers look good, but if you look at his game log, Jason, he hasn't scored in double-digit points only one time in his last 10 games. He hasn't shot over 50% from the floor since the day after Thanksgiving game. He shot 50%. He was 2 for 4 against Denver. Every other game he's been sub 28%, 33%, 36%, 40, 50, 25, and 43. And from three, he has not made multiple three-pointers in a game since November 27th. In totality, he's averaging just 0.2 three-point makes per game in 6 December games. We knew he wasn't as good as he was early in the season, Jason. He's better than the player he's been for the last 6-7 games here for Cleveland. How concerned are you about this in-season slump right now for Ty Jerome?
What I was going to say earlier, and I said I'll wait and hold it. Are we sure it's a slump? or is this just regression to the mean of who he is? Because he was shooting out of his mind. And we kept saying, well, there's no way he can continue to play like this, but ride it out as long as he can. And, I mean, if you want to make the David Fry comparison to the Guardians, well, Fry did that as well, where he kind of fought some injuries and for a few months went ice cold. I just think that this is sort of Ty. This is who I don't want to listen, he's 1 of 14, I think, from 3 in his last 6 or 7 games. He's not that. But I do think that he's getting closer. This is getting closer to the player than whatever that was that we saw at the start. That was just outrageous. And I don't think anyone thought was sustainable. And even the Cavs coaches and players were like, yeah, we don't know where this is coming from. So I just think he's just kind of coming back to who he is.
Well, in that case, you're very concerned about this being a slump because that means this is kind of what we're going to get for the rest of the season. I think it's my fault, Jason. I think I actually jinxed Ty Jerome. I was on a podcast last week, and this was 2 games into the slump, or 3 games into the slump. And I came up with a stat on the fly. I'm actually going to debut it on UCSS right now. But there's a new stat called League Pass Moments. And that is when a player is so supernova hot and doing something so extreme that you're scrolling Twitter and it's like, holy crap, player X is doing this. I got to turn him on League Pass. Ty Jerome, by my count, has 3 League Pass moments this year, which leads the Cavs. He has 3. His game against Golden State, his supernova game against the Pelicans, and then he was red hot again when he scored 26 points against the Raptors. And he did those all in the first half of those games. Incredible, incredible, incredible outings from Ty Jerome. And since I've said that, if you were looking on League Pass, you could not find a sighting of Ty Jerome, not a single highlight of Ty Jerome, not a steal, not a block, not an assist, not a jumper, not a charge, not a layup, not a nothing. So I am sorry, Ty, because I think I literally created a stat just for you, and the basketball god said, all right, this is getting out of control. You can't have a stat named after you. We have to bring you back down to earth. I am concerned with the slump in all seriousness. I don't think Ty Jerome is as bad of a player as he's been the last 6 games. You've seen his minutes get cut. Sam Merrill played 20-something minutes 2 games ago. Ty Jerome played 9. Kenny Atkinson is trying to finagle his way to get Ty Jerome back into rhythm. But I will say this. Over the summer, the Cavs said Ty Jerome was the MVP of their summer workouts. And then Georges Niang said in training camp, Ty Jerome was the best player at training camp. And in the first month of the season, Ty Jerome was arguably the biggest surprise in all of basketball. At some point, you don't go from being a surprise 3 months in a row. So Ty Jerome is better than this. I think we had underestimated how good he can be in the situation he's in. But shooting 56% from 3 was never realistic for Ty Jerome.
Correct.
So I think we all got rightfully so engulfed in the hype of Ty Jerome and Earl screaming, Ty Jerome, and G. Bush. Like, it was all fun, but I think we all knew there was some sort of leveling off that was bound to happen. This is the leveling off. The question now is, can the Cavs get Ty Jerome to be a consistent contributor to the rotation, and can he be your 4th guard off the bench, or do you have to address that situation? Because when we looked at the Cavs' need, Jason, it was a bigger wing and a backup big. We didn't think the backcourt was any sort of question mark whatsoever, and now they have 3 guards you for sure can count on. I'm not sure if they have 4.
Yeah, obviously we've joked about it before. My infamous line the first couple weeks of the season, if they want to get under the cap, or if they want to get under the tax, they can just dump Ty Jerome. And then he was just playing out of his mind. I would not try and upgrade that spot right now. I don't think that they have enough bullets really to do that. And they've got more pressing needs if they do try and go that route. I still don't think it's out of the question that they would move on from him if he continues to play like this. And they are trying to get under the tax. But certainly if there's a list of needs, that's not at the top of my list. Yeah. Because I do agree with you. I mean, if he shoots 40% from 3 this year, that's a huge win at the end of the season. That's a big time win. When you get to the playoffs, I don't know that your 4th guard is a spot that you're counting on for a lot of minutes anyway. So he's probably would be trimmed from the rotation anyway in a postseason game. When you look at where his minutes are now, he's looking up. He's cracked 20 minutes once in his last 7 games. So, and was Max Strus, and as Max Strus comes back, those are going to continue to get trimmed. I would think. Like I would think we've gone back and forth on who's on the chopping block when Max comes back, who's going to lose minutes, and I think the answer has changed from week to week depending on where, which is just the nature of the NBA. Is guys are hot and guys are not, and guys get hurt, and the old cliche is these things sort of work themselves out, and that's true. And I think you might be seeing that now with the way that Max is cooling off, or I'm sorry, the way that Ty's cooling off. He probably will wind up losing minutes to Max.
It's a great point. And let's talk about Max Strus after a quick reminder that you can check out all of the Ultimate Cleveland sports shows across the YouTube channel. Earl did a 216 with Cecil Shorts this morning. G had an Ultimate Brown show. As always, we're the Ultimate Cavs show. The Ultimate Guardian show is coming every other week right now in the offseason. And as always, we are 11 to 1 on YouTube, Monday through Friday on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Jason, last Friday, it was rumored that Max Strus was set to make his return to the lineup after 2 straight days of practice. The Cavs said he's not ready yet. What have you heard about when we could possibly see Max Strus back in the Cavaliers lineup, and hopefully the last time we will not see him in street clothes for the rest of the season?
Yeah, this is the weird, because I thought he'd be back by now. What are we at? 8 weeks?
Yeah, about 2 months from the start of the season.
So it's got to be soon. I haven't checked on an exact return. I would imagine they got 3 straight home games. I would imagine we'll see him at some point over the weekend or next Monday's against Utah.
That's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So it goes Milwaukee, Philly, Utah. If we don't see him against Milwaukee on Friday, then I would assume by Monday he'll be back. He's got to be close. I get it. Like, the worst thing you could have at this point is re-aggravate it and set you back and start the clock all over again, or, knock you out for another 2 weeks. So, an extra 2 or 3 days compared to an extra 2 or 3 weeks makes a lot of sense. But I would imagine we'll see him by Monday.
When he was supposed to play Friday and then it got announced that he wasn't going to play against the Wizards, I shot a text to somebody in the organization and just asked, what's going on? And essentially the response I got was, if this was a playoff game, he could play. But we're not going to rush him back. We're waiting for him to be 100%. He went through 2 straight days of practice. He hoped his body would feel like this. His body did not feel like that. So let's not force anything. Let's not rush anything. There's no need to push him back. Let's take our time and be smart with it. That was last Friday. That's an extra week now. He didn't play against Brooklyn. I would hope Milwaukee. And if he plays against Milwaukee, I don't think he'll play in a back-to-back. So you may see him Friday, Monday. You may see him Saturday, Monday if they want to give him 1 extra day. Philadelphia obviously not playing the same caliber of basketball as Milwaukee is, so maybe you wait to bring him back against a team that's not playing as well and doesn't have Giannis, which also just being on the court with Giannis is puts a lot of physical stress on a player anyway. So I'm not too concerned, but I will say, if this is just a sprained ankle, which is what was reported, 8 weeks is a long time for a sprain. It must have been like the holy trinity of sprained ankles, where it's a high, a mid, and a low ankle sprain. Because everyone heals differently. Every ankle sprain's not built the same, but it's been a long time since we've seen Max Strus play basketball, and the report was he stepped on a trainer's foot. That doesn't typically lead to 2 months on the sideline.
Yeah, and the initial prognosis was at least 6 weeks. He'd be re-examined in 6 weeks, so we knew it was pretty gruesome from that. I mean, a lot of ankles are 2 to 4 weeks, but it can stretch to 6. But it's not often that it gets to the 8-week mark. The good thing is all these days off are a lot of extra practices, because a lot of coaches will say, we want to get a practice in. They want to see him get through a practice first before you activate a guy, especially when he's coming off an injury that's been this long. So he's got multiple practice days. He's got plenty of time now to get hot, recover, rest, get hot again, and see how the ankle responds. Good call by you. I agree. He won't be on a back-to-back. So hopefully it's Friday. If not, certainly by Monday, I would think that he'll be back.
I would say this, and I have not. This is just me speculating. If he's not back by Monday, Jason, we gotta start doing some digging and figuring out what's going on. Because if he's not back Monday, I'm gonna start signaling along that something is way more serious than they have led us on to believe.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Awesome. All right, we're gonna get to our last topic of the show here. Just shout out to the people in the chat. We appreciate you guys all I'm not going to read every name right there, but we appreciate you guys for tuning into the Ultimate Cavalier Show here at 6:30 on a Tuesday night, the week before Christmas Eve. Jason, NBA ratings across the board are down. We got into this a little bit on UCSS today. I teased the people what I thought, and I'll let you go first. But real quick, let's start with why you believe the ratings are down, and then we'll get into possible solutions. But the floor is yours. Why do you believe NBA ratings are down right now, Jason?
I don't think it's one magic bullet. I don't think it's one reason. I think it's a combination of a lot of factors. Number one, nobody wants to talk about this. Everybody wants to run from this. I do think it plays into it. The NBA is the most outspoken political league of any league going. Baseball is actually pretty far right, but they don't really talk about it. And the NBA is pretty far left. And when the NFL talked about it, same thing happened with their ratings, where a lot of people sort of lost interest and went away over the whole kneeling thing and everything. I'm not saying it's the overwhelming factor, but I do think it plays a role. Okay, beyond that, I think a lot of people lose interest in the way that the game is played with all the three-pointers. And, there's a clip that went viral a few weeks ago. I forget the teams now, where it was like, I think it might have been the Lakers.
It was like the Lakers versus the Heat, where they didn't play any defense.
It was like 7 or 8 possessions of threes. Yeah. Dribble, 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 shoot a three, go the other way, dribble, 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 shoot a three. Nobody wants to watch that. And so I think that plays into it. Another thing that, one of the obvious ones is just the overwhelming social media presence of everything's on Twitter. Everything you need to see is on Twitter or on YouTube. You can go right there and you can catch up on everything. But what plays into that I don't think people really talk about, this is just my personal opinion. One of the reasons why I believe the NFL is so overwhelmingly popular and so ratings are off the chart and everybody's into it is because they play once a week.
Yeah.
And you can be active and busy with your life. I got 3 kids, running kids all over the place. You can have, you can keep up with your job, with your relationships with your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, and your kids. And you can tune out Monday through Friday, unless they got one of those Monday or Thursday games. But you know what I'm saying? You can go all week. You can completely check out. You can tune back in on Sunday, and you haven't missed a thing. And it allows you to stay more engaged and connected and attached to your team. And I think that goes for college football as well. Whereas the NBA and baseball, games are coming all the time. And it's easy to sort of fall out and not and sort of miss things. So I think that is – I don't think it gets talked about enough, but I think that's one of the big reasons why the NFL is so popular, because you can check out for a week and not miss anything. And in the NBA, if you miss a week, you've just missed 2 hamstrings, an ankle, 3 losses, and a star player going nuclear. But then you can turn around and catch right back up with it on Twitter and YouTube without having to sit there and waste 2.5 hours of your night. That really a lot of people don't have anymore. A lot of people don't have 2.5 hours to sit around and watch a game anymore. We're so freaking busy with all these different things.
Yeah. You touched on a lot of good points. Some of them were mine as well. I think the oversaturation of media in terms of the NBA has caused people to care more about the drama of basketball than the actual games. People care more about when Draymond Green swings at Rudy Gobert.
Man, I used to hear that all the time when I covered the Cavs.
Than any actual – we see it on UCSS. Hell, we'll do it. We're doing a Dorian Finney-Smith trade report tomorrow. So the Cavs get traded Dorian – that's going to do 10 times more views than the clip we did today on Caris Levert and how his shooting changes the offensive philosophy for Cleveland.
Yeah.
I guarantee you. We're going to do the Ben Simmons buyout conversation at some point, Jason. That clip's going to do stupid numbers.
Yeah.
And guess what's not? A reaction to something actual X's and O's in terms of basketball.
Pick and roll. A breakdown of the pick and roll.
The drama sells, and in the NBA, it has become a drama league. Before the actual product, it has become a drama league. These players have podcasts. Hell, the 76ers had a players-only meeting where Tyrese Maxey told Joel Embiid, stop being late. And Paul George did a podcast on it the next day. Like, his own team. And guess what? That podcast did like 600,000 views.
Sure.
Drama sells. So they don't care about the game. It's also worth noting that just because the TV ratings are lower doesn't mean the popularity of the league is lower. Those two things are not simultaneously hand in hand. People can watch and follow the NBA via Twitter and YouTube now in ways they were never able to in the past. You do not have to watch the Cavs game last night to know exactly what happened. You can go look at the Cavs Twitter. Go follow any of the Cavs creators that post all the highlights online. Mac, Tony, they all post the highlights. You want to see the best Evan Mobley plays? Just go on Twitter. You want to see the 10-minute breakdown of the game so you don't have to see all the missed shots? You can go on YouTube. So you don't have to spend 2.5 hours watching the game. Social media helped grow the NBA, especially during COVID. It is now what is tearing down their ratings. And the player empowerment movement, Jason, where players just leave teams, there's less diehard fans of teams and more diehard fans of players now. So I'll use your son for an example. I'm just going to make up. I don't know if AJ actually likes Ja Morant, but if he was a Ja Morant fan, he's just going to go on TikTok and search Ja Morant and see what Ja Morant did last night. He doesn't give a crap what the Grizzlies did. And if Ja Morant ends up getting traded to the Jazz, would never happen. I'm just using a stupid example. Yeah. Guess what he's going to do when he's on the Jazz? Look up Ja Morant highlight. He doesn't care how the Jazz do. And then the product. Too many teams shoot too many threes. The fouling at the end of the games makes the end of basketball games unbearable to watch. The Cavs, when they beat the Celtics, the last 34 seconds of the game took 17 minutes of real time. It's unbearable. They have to figure out a way to do it. The load management, there's no way to fix it, but it's an issue. And the fact that 67% of teams make the playoffs, Jason, on any given night, it's hard to get excited about an individual regular season game. I disagree when Bull says the regular season doesn't matter, but he's right that a lot of times a random Monday night game makes no difference in the grand scheme of things.
And one other thing on this, the league has been striving for parity. Well, the flip side to parity is the Miami Heat of 2010, 11, 12, 13 was appointment viewing. People wanted to tune in and watch Bosh and LeBron and Wade together. Those great Lakers teams is appointment viewing. They wanted to see those teams. Now the best player in the league is a media disaster who is probably going to win another MVP award. What is that going to make? 3 straight for him? 4 straight?
He has 3. It'll be 4. But it's not just him. It's all the best players in the league right now. Jokic, international. Luka, international. Doesn't like doing media.
Yeah.
Giannis, international. 3 best players in the league. International. SGA, international.
I don't know that it's the international component as much as a lot of it, I think. I mean, Dallas is a big market, but market has to do with it too. Jokic is in Denver. SGA is in Oklahoma City. Donovan here. This is what the league wants. The league wants stars in small markets, and they want small market teams to be able to retain those stars, which is better for the overall health of the league. But when it comes to ratings, I keep saying people in New York are going to be floating in the Hudson River when it's the Cavs and OKC in an NBA Finals matchup within the next couple of years.
How about Jackson Flickinger, who covers the Cavs for Fear the Sword? He works for SB Nation too. He was out in Vegas this week for the NBA Cup. And he said there was more people in bull riding, because there's the National Bull Riding Convention's out in Vegas right now. Yeah. There's more people in bull riding gear walking around the strip in Vegas than there are in Bucks Thunder jerseys for tonight's NBA Cup championship.
I totally believe it. And there's who is the face of the league right now?
It's Jokic.
Who is more appealing, Jokic or LeBron 10 years ago?
LeBron, if he had half a leg and 4 fingers on his left hand and his shoulder was discombobulated, would be more appealing. I feel like there was a few years where there's a little bit of a vacuum after Michael retired, and it was like, who's next? Who's going to take the mantle? And it was Kobe. But it wasn't immediate. Yeah.
And now as LeBron phases out and Kevin Durant's older and Steph Curry's older, still good players, but they're not carrying the torch for the league like they were. I mean, Cavs Warriors was monster numbers. Yeah. Did monster numbers because it was
star power.
It was a star-driven series and a star-driven league. And right now, I don't know. They have a lot of really, really good players, but I don't know who that face of the league is. And I guess you're right. It's probably Jokic, but he's a marketing disaster.
Yeah. So
who do you build the brand behind? And I think that hurts the overall product and numbers and ratings, because who's that team that everybody's gunning for? Who's that player that everybody's gunning for?
It doesn't
know.
exist. And
It
with the
doesn't
player
exist.
empowerment movement, and they leave and they go and they get unhappy and the teams break up, like there's not even, Jason, rivalries. Like, can you name one legitimate rivalry in today's NBA?
No. No.
It doesn't exist.
But that really has. I mean, Cavs Warriors was a rivalry.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but those guys stuck around. Steph and the best rivalry in sports is Gobert versus Draymond right now. But like, that's not a team rivalry. That's an individual I hate you situation. Right. Jordan Poole versus Draymond versus if you get the point, it's people who hate Draymond, but it's not because they hate the Warriors. It's so here are my solutions, Jason, real quick. And none of these are going to happen. I understand. I think this would make the NBA better. You shorten the regular. Once again, I am fully aware that this would never happen. But you shorten the regular season to 66 games. It's not appointment television, but it's a lot harder to take games off and coast if there's only 66 regular season games. Eliminate the play-in. Go back to how it was, 8 teams per conference. Or if you want to get crazy, top 12 records in basketball. East, West, I don't care. Top 12 records make the playoffs. Top 2 seeds get a bye. The other 8, just like the college football playoff, the other 8 play each other and then get in. But that way you have 12 teams making the playoff. That's a little over a third. 40% of the league makes it as opposed to 67%. And if you want to change the product on court, if you let teams shoot threes, they're going to shoot threes. I said this on the show. You got to cap the number of threes a team can take or eliminate the corner 3 or make dunks worth 3 points. How about that? Just any dunk is worth 3 points, which incentivizes high-flying action, getting to the rim. It changes the game. I don't love changing the game like that, but if I'm looking for drastic changes, way to make it a little more appealing to the casual fan on a night-to-night basis, that's another option that I think is at least worth entertaining.
Yeah, there is no easy fix to this. They're not going to reduce the regular season because it reduces money. They're not going to reduce playoff teams because it reduces money, and money drives all of this. I really like the idea of top 12, make it regardless of conference, because the West is better than the East, and there's probably going to be there's definitely going to be some better teams in the West that get left out, as opposed to some teams that make it in the East that probably aren't deserving if you go to the top 12. And it just feels like conferences don't really matter in the NBA. Like everybody plays everybody about the same number of times. It's not like baseball. It's more like football, although football still divides by conferences or playoffs by conference. But I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's
no easy fix.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it matters as much being East or West in the NBA in terms of whether or not you make the playoffs. It should be by if you're playing each other the same number of times. Like even in football, obviously you can't play all the teams the same number of times. But in the NBA, if you're playing everybody about equally, just take the top 12. I like that. I like that a lot.
We got one super chat, Jason, then we'll get out of here.
Have a little bit of a play-in tournament at the bottom for the last couple spots.
Sure. But more than half the league can't be in the playoffs. That is where I draw the line.
Yeah.
One super chat comes from Andy. He says, can the Cavs afford extending players like Levert and others? They have the full bird rights to Levert, so they can go over what they do you want to the answer is yes. I don't want to explain all the bird rights stipulations. But
full bird rights means you can go over the cap to re-sign your own guys. They already know they're going to be a tax team next year. The question is how they handle it this year. They would have no obstacle to re-signing Caris Levert as long as he's reasonable in his contract, and I would imagine that he would be. There should be no obstacle to them re-signing him if they want to bring him back next year.
As for others, I don't know who else is even on an expiring deal who would quantify as others. So,
I mean, nobody. Everybody's all of their key pieces
are locked up.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes, Andy. They can absolutely afford extending Levert if they want. That's going to end the Ultimate Cavalier stream. They play again Friday at home against the Bucks, Saturday at home against the Sixers, and Monday at home against the Jazz. We'll see you tomorrow on UCSS. For Jason, I'm McNuggets. Peace.